You get 3 rolls on this tower.
Okay, great.
Each number corresponds to a random question, and whatever you roll, that's where we start.
Okay, so I just roll it on here.
So do you know about dice towers?
Well, yeah, it goes in here.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great.
You
Ready?
know- yeah. So curious to see what happens. All right. Number 8. Oh, this is a fun one.
Okay.
This is everyday things.
Okay.
I want to know a seemingly small everyday thing that human beings do that is most difficult to replicate on set as an actor. Things like waking
playing
up.
drunk.
I've heard that answer so many times.
Drunk
and it's
is
so
hard.
true.
But fake waking up is actually a really good one.
yeah.
Georgia's got a lot of groggy bed scenes this season. You know, we're on house arrest, so we're stuck in bed quite a bit. That is hard. Or, I think being drunk and sleep, and actually brushing your teeth sometimes.
Oh, that's a new one.
Yeah.
Why?
Because, in one of the seasons, we have our electric toothbrush. And I feel like in real life, you're supposed to just let it be, you know? But they want you to. Are you supposed to move it around?
I thought
you're supposed to leave it more on the gum portion.
I think it depends what kind of electric toothbrush you have.
I don't know, but they were like, girls, it doesn't look like you're brushing your teeth. Like, really go at it.
I have thought about that when I'm standing there with my electric toothbrush. Like, if I were on set and an actor and someone handed me that didn't have some sort of motor in it,
Right.
like, would I know what to do?
What would you do? Exactly.
Honestly, I don't know.
We'd be lost.
This is why my sister does not allow me to do brush teeth time with her children.
Oh my gosh.
They have these really cool things now. I wish I knew what they were called, but for little kids who don't want to brush their teeth and you want to make sure they get all your teeth, it almost looks like a night guard kind of thing.
I think I've seen this on Instagram.
It is fascinating. And they just put it in their mouth.
Yeah, it's like a retainer.
And they move it.
Yeah.
And the brushes brush their teeth.
Or is it too crazy?
I don't know. I had like a shitty old toothbrush as a kid. Like the biggest frill mine had was that it played a song.
I was just gonna say that. I remember being little and the dentist saying, you should telling my mom to get one of those toothbrushes that has the song to make it fun, and you don't finish brushing your teeth till the song is over. Yes, I remember that
not
vividly.
that fun.
No.
Now I get myself to brush my teeth by listening to an audiobook.
Who doesn't? I feel I have no silence around me ever. I feel like I'm constantly listening to something all the time.
What are you listening to right now?
I am listening to, I always do my true crime podcasts.
Ooh.
I know.
I feel like that's very appropriate.
It is. There's one called Sword and Scale that I love. It's very dark.
Okay.
And then there's this one called Otherworld that my friend most recently got me into. And it's a little bit spookier. It's more like ghost stories and things like that.
Okay. I'm into it.
But since having a child, I can only listen to these during the day.
Yeah.
I used to be able to fall asleep listening to them.
Oh, no.
And it's all shifted. I know, it's a terrible thing.
Very understandable, yes. My sister's always asking me, like, when is the appropriate age to show the kids this and that? I'm like, I'm the worst person to ask. Yeah. Do not ask me. You tell me what I'm allowed to take them to see, and that's it. All right. Second roll on the tower here.
Here we go.
All right. Set vice. What is your on-set vice? The food, the activity, the anything you turn to power through a tough day.
Oh my gosh. It's definitely crafty. Definitely crafty. I'm blanking on the candy that we would eat so much of, but it's the sugar on set. 100%. It is the sugar.
I get that.
Yeah. It's hard.
Energy drinks. Yeah. Always an energy drink. Anything with caffeine. But yeah, candy's good too.
We need
Except I'm afraid of them. So speaking of the dentist before, I'm terrified of the dentist, so I won't
you?
I won't eat things that will potentially crack a tooth or pull out a filling.
That's wonderful for you though.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
You're missing out on a little bit, but hey, you probably have much better teeth than the rest of us.
Yeah, I would hope so. Yeah. I don't know. I think my dentist might beg to differ. All right, last roll on the tower
I hope
here.
they're listening.
I just saw him. I just drove him nuts, too. Number 7's a meteor acting question. Actually, I haven't asked this one in a little while. It is high-low. Can you recall an audition high and also not necessarily an audition low, but something you learned from an audition that you were then able to apply to future auditions?
I just had a really fun, and granted this was over Zoom because everything's a little bit different now, but I just had a really fun session with J.J. Abrams, and it was just a great session. It was fun to get notes from him, and it was fun to play around, and I got to have my own reader. It was like a legitimately fun audition, and I feel like that's kind of rare.
You brought your own reader?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was cool.
Why don't more audition environments allow that to happen?
I don't know, and it could be shifting. Supplying your own reader is a little bit newer, but it's starting to happen sometimes over Zoom.
That is fascinating.
I know, but it was really fun.
So that's a high.
That's a high. It was really cool. And then a low. I mean, the first thing that's coming to mind is like back when I was going out commercially, whenever you have to dance in an audition, it's just the worst. Like, it's just the worst.
Do you like to dance in general?
Well, sure. I mean, around my house, yes. I'm all for dancing in the car around my house, not to like, no one should ever pay me to do this. So and I just feel like it used to happen all the time in like commercial auditions. You gotta like dance a little bit. It's just embarrassing.
That would truly, there's a million and one reasons why I could never be an actor, but the fact that I like don't like to dance and don't like to sing, I feel like would knock me out of just about every role there is out there.
Yeah,
a lot of talented singers in your ensemble. My God.
Well, and this actually is a good answer for your other question. Having to dance in a scene is equally as awkward because you also can't have music a lot of the times for sound purposes. So that's incredibly awkward.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back for a new edition of Collider Ladies Night. Brianne Howey, celebrating Ginny and Georgia Season 3. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
What was the movie you saw, the performance you saw, personal experience you had, whatever it may be, that first made you say to yourself, I need to be an actor?
It was working on my very first student film in college. I was a freshman and I went to NYU. I did Tisch. So I already knew that's what I wanted to do. But I don't know. I had done the plays in high school. So being on a proper set for a student film, surrounded by people all around the same age, like-minded, all for the same outcome, and it was so collaborative, and I had just never felt more alive.
That's a beautiful example.
Like, it was the best.
Especially because I'm an NYU I've had a lot of NYU alums in here recently. I want to say like 2 of my last guests in the past 2 weeks.
Really?
Both stars from Ghost were in Tisch as well.
We got to
I was definitely not Tisch.
What were you in?
I was in CIS. I was journalism. Surprise,
cool.
surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, well.
When this is backtracking a little bit, but I'm curious if it paves the way to NYU. When you first decided you wanted to pursue a career as an actor, at that time, what did you think was step 1 to making that dream a reality? And having done it now, would you recommend that first step as something an aspiring actor out there should do? It's
a really good question. I mean, to me, like, there was no... My mom, I was always going to go to college. Like, it was very important to my mom and me. So I thought, if I could get into NYU and if I could get into Tisch, then I'll pursue acting. But I kind of put all my eggs in that basket. If I didn't get into NYU, I was just going to assume this was not meant to be. And then I will say, like, on one of my first days in acting class at NYU, one of the teachers said to us, like, you all, like, first and foremost, let's all get it straight. You don't need to go to college to be an actor. Which is true. You absolutely do not. So then I kind of felt weird and bad about it, where I was like, oh, great. I have the next 4 years. I'm here. Oh, my God. But now looking back, I wouldn't change it for the world. No, it gave me an incredible foundation. I met some of my best friends that I'm still closest with to this day. I got to truly experiment and play. And again, like doing student films, I learned so much about myself. So for me, I think it was definitely the right path.
Ooh, I have so many follow-up questions. This one kind of leans into what you were just saying. What is something that you learned in that program that you still find yourself using to this day? But then also, can you tell me something that all the time there in the world never would have prepared you for when you hit your first professional set?
Yes. The first thing, okay, so look, I did Strasberg, so it's all sense memory. I still use that. I still work from the inside out. Like, I start with substitution. Like, I still very much use the acting technique that was taught to me in college. And I think what I loved about that was, so there's like, I don't know, 6 or 7 different studios, right? There's Adler, Experimental Theater Wing, Classical, Strasberg, whatever.
Playwrights Horizon.
That
Sheila from Go, Sheila Carrasco was in that, and we were revisiting, and my roommate the freshman year was in that. And it sounded like such a fascinating program.
So cool.
Yeah.
And I think I learned from knowing that there were so many different studios that there's no right or wrong way to go about this. Everyone has the same outcome. Everybody's just different. And like, what are you going to respond to? And I'm going to respond the most to like big feelings and emotions and sense memory. But I feel like I've used that analogy. I think about it probably subconsciously all the time, that like it doesn't matter what studio you were in. We all wanted the same outcome, and that's just to be a good actor, really.
What about something that all the schooling in the world never would have prepared you for when you entered the professional space?
I mean, the pressure.
Yeah.
There's nothing can prepare you for the pressure. And again, that's like so different for everybody. Everybody handles pressure so differently. But I don't know. That you just can't. Yeah, you can't know that till you're in it. I also booked my very first audition, which I feel like is very misleading for what I thought was going to be. Everything was going to be like. Yeah, but it was also cool.
What was that one?
It was the reboot of 90210.
Ah, yes.
I went in for Girl in Green, and I booked a named role of Stacy. Yes, I had like 2 lines, I think.
That is very exciting.
It was cool. Yeah.
What is something about, I mean, even if it was like a limited role on a single episode, what was maybe certain expectations that experience set for you? And then how did the things you booked after compare to that?
I mean, I remember like my team being like, they were like, you're pinned. And I was like, what does being pinned mean? And they're like, oh, that means you're like in the running. It prepared me for... Oh gosh, like, I don't know. I remember like standing, it was my very first experience. I remember standing, not knowing like that the actors hung out in one area and like Video Village was one area. So I kept hanging out near Video Village and they were like, ma'am, you can go sit with the other actors. Like there's like a chair for you and all that. So I think I learned some set etiquette probably. Setiquette.
Setiquette. Do people really say that? Because now I'm going to repeat it.
I think they do.
I like that.
We say it on set sometimes.
I dig that.
Yeah. Did that answer the question?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. At the beginning of that answer, you said that your team explained what being pinned meant. That meant that you had a team at that point. What was it like perhaps being in school or graduating from school and finding those necessary people to spark a career with?
Very cool. I'm with my same manager I've been with since day one. And at that time, that's who I was with. And I'm still with them. And it's been incredible. I showed them. I met with this casting director, and I gave the casting director the first student film that I ever did, like a DVD of it, and was like, here's my resume, like here's what I have to show you. And then she made some calls, and that's how I found my management.
I'm going to highlight your manager real quick. 'Cause one of my favorite things to highlight that we don't talk about nearly enough are agents and managers and publicists and those kinds of people. So you've been with that manager since the very beginning.
Yeah.
What is something about the way that manager operates that lets them do their job and do it well, but also does it in a way that aligns with your personal goals as an artist?
Like... my manager is so professional and thorough and like a real go-getter. She will put 300% of herself into her work. And let me say, before I had a child, I too put 300% of myself into everything. It's slightly less because now my needs are spread out a little bit more.
Of course.
But she is a hustler. I mean, that's kind of all it comes down to. She's a hustler.
That's the best.
Works very, very hard.
It's a hard industry to be in. It makes me very happy when I hear that people have like the right individuals in their corner. Because that's
100%.
the only way to do it.
And it's like, who can you ask, very transparent questions to? And the amount of times I've called my publicist being in my head about something that you don't always want to vocalize, but you need to have it needs to be a safe space, I think.
Can you give me an example of a question you might have been afraid to ask, but you felt comfortable asking it, whether it was a publicist, a manager, whoever, because they were people that you trusted?
Did I look stupid? Or like, was that a stupid story? Like, did that not land? Like, how, yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I feel like I have my lengthy list of friends that I ask that exact question to quite often.
It's you can get in your own way sometimes.
It is true. It is true. So you do 90210, and then there were a bunch of other guest appearances that came after that. Of all of those early TV experiences before you booked your first series regular role, which would you say taught you the most about what you valued in an on-set environment?
It's a great question. I have actually had really wonderful experiences. Like, I remember, I did a lot of network TV before working with Netflix, and I feel like I got really lucky. I got to work on so many things that were such a well-oiled machine, like doing Criminal Minds or NCIS. These shows have been on forever. Their crews, they know each other inside and out. Like, they just know exactly what they're doing. So I feel like Oh, I guess I was a series regular for that one. But yeah, I've always looked to the number one and like tried really hard to be a sponge and like stay in my lane, but be a sponge and be very aware of like what is everyone else doing or what is number one doing and how do they take a note or when do they take breaks or things like that.
I have so many follow-up questions.
Okay.
First, can you give me an example of a number one on the call sheet that inspired you and you find yourself thinking of on the Ginny Georgia set?
Mark Paul Gosselaar was our number one on The Passage, and I think about him all the time. He led us with such grace, and he was so professional, but worked so hard and cared so much, but was still so fun, didn't take himself too seriously, but was always on time. And a family man. Like, I didn't at the time have a family, but I now looking back, I mean, I already admired him so much and everything he was doing. But now knowing on top of it, he was away from his kids for the majority of that, away from his family, like, just kudos.
Ooh, I love that. All right. Now, looking at some of the shows that you did become a series regular on, were there any takeaways on those particular shows that when Ginny and Georgia came your way kind of signaled to you like this new Netflix show, this was going to be a good story for me to tell and a good group of people for me to work with?
I mean, throughout the audition process, it was all women in the room, and that I have never experienced, so that felt really special. And what else? I mean, I loved the story, and I did a handful of Antonia, who plays Ginny, got cast before me, so all my chemistry reads were with her, and once I saw her, because I didn't know what to expect, but I remember walking into the room for the first time, seeing her, and it all clicked. I was like, oh, that's Ginny.
Oh, all right. I'll dig into that a little more. I'm obsessed with your ensemble.
Aww.
I think this is truly like one of the best cast shows out
really
there.
Lucky.
I'll stick with her a little longer in particular. And you kind of did just answer this, but I'm curious when you first started to get to work with her.
Yeah.
What is the first thing she did either in prep or on set that made you like feel to your core, you are 100% the Ginny to my Georgia?
You know, okay, I feel like after we got cast, we started shooting pretty fast. So we really just got thrown into the deep end. I think it's like just do it. Like Ginny and Georgia are so physically close, right? Like in a lot of the scenes we're cuddling or we're touching or whatever it may be. And I feel like it was season one, before one scene, kind of early on, I think I just asked her, because I think Georgia I had to get emotional at one point in the scene, and I was nervous. So I asked her to like improvise with me beforehand, leading into the scene, and she was so game. And we just were able to lock in. Like it felt like some of our first takes in the scenes felt like the fifth take. It just felt we both just dove right in, and it just kind of clicked.
I love that. You two are just like pitch perfect together. Like, I don't know, just like the emotional connection, like the cadence between the two of you, everything feels so spot on. One of the things I love most about when I talk to an actor who is like playing a mother and a daughter, or really any kind of family relationship, is you can often find so much about your own character via your scene partner. In this case, the actress playing your daughter. So can you tell me something early on that you discovered about Georgia that only came through working with Antonia as Ginny?
I mean, I think so much of what Tony does amazing is like Ginny's silent suffering, which is like so brutal to talk about, but Tony does it so beautifully, and it's something that is so important for Georgia. I mean, Georgia's kind of in denial about it, right? And it like takes a while for Georgia to start to really see it. And I think she finally does the most in this season. But I don't know. I think that's just one of the most important parts of it that Antonia brings so much life to. And like Georgia takes up so much space and Ginny doesn't. And Tony does that also, like to have a presence but not take up space in the same way that Georgia does is very impressive. I don't really know how she does that.
I'll go back to the idea briefly of talking about the value of a good leader on set, because you are a leader on that show, but so is she.
Yeah.
And I just see her going on to do everything and anything she wants. So what is something about her, not even just as a great scene partner, but as a leader on that set for everybody else that you really admire and are going to be excited for even more actors to experience on her future sets?
Tony's really amazing about, like, you would assume maybe because someone is younger or it's their first big show. I mean, she's done things before this, but it's her first big show. She will speak her mind and she will stand up for herself. Yeah, she takes control of her character. She's not letting anyone walk all over Ginny. And I feel like when I first started, I don't know that I vocalized in that same way. So I really admire that about her.
Do you remember, I love asking this question and it just popped into my mind when you said that. Do you remember the very first time on a professional set when you could feel the power of your own voice, when you felt the urge and the confidence to speak up and something either in front of the lens or behind it changed for the better?
Look, it's probably not till Ginny and Georgia, truthfully. It's not until Ginny and Georgia, I think, where I've started asking for another take. I don't think I would have done that before, where I'm just like, I don't feel good about that. And I'd like to go again. But that's not something, I mean, it's a muscle I've worked on.
No, it's an important thing to grow into, feeling confident enough to do.
Exactly.
I'll follow up on that. Can you recall a time maybe early on in the show? Actually, I'm going to split this into a complicated two-part question because I love doing that.
Okay.
Can you give me an example of a time when you knew to your core you needed another take and it served the scene for the better? But then I'm also wondering if you could give me an example of the opposite, like maybe a time when self-doubt creeped in and someone else on set was just like, no, you crushed it and you did.
It's a good question. I mean, I'm thinking primarily of season 3.
I'll take that.
Do you remember like the Georgia laughing scene?
I do remember the Georgia laughing scene.
It was really.
That's another thing that I'm always wondering. Is that like a basic human thing that's difficult to do?
It was hard to do. I was compiling videos beforehand to like genuinely get myself going there. I was so in my head about that. And Ray was so supportive, who plays Joe. I think probably for that one I asked for another take because I think I felt like I could feel the laugh was disingenuous at certain points. So, and I think they were okay or they felt like we got it, but I think I was like, I could do it better.
How about the opposite now? A time when self-doubt almost took hold, but like because you have a team of people around you that you trust, like you knew their instincts were right.
Okay, the dancing scene. The dancing scene, you know? A lot of that too is just fully improvised. We're not choreographing anything, but it's like in the moment you're making this up on the go. We played around with some different moves and things like that. But I think the way it turned out is really fun and funny.
It's so charming. Yeah. I love it. I love it. I did have one other big cast question that I really wanted to ask because in addition to just being obsessed with how well cast your show is, I also love, as we were talking about before, like the multitude of acting techniques that are out there. Can you maybe pinpoint the 2 people in this ensemble with the most polar opposite approaches to their work? So when you are their primary scene partner, you know you'll get a very different acting experience.
Where I know I'm going to get... Well, the first thing that came to mind was Sarah and Felix, I feel like, have very different approaches, which I love because they're brother and sister, you know? But where do I know? Yeah, like... I mean, and it's kind of similar, like now my mind's going. It's like, so I feel like Georgia wears a mask with all of the men in her life, right? Like she acts very different compared to when she's with the mayor, than when she's with Zion, when she's with Joe. And yeah, I have a different experience in each scene with all of them as well as they're very different performers.
Oh, I bet that is the case. Here's another question about that, and I might be oversimplifying it, but because she wears a mask and presents a little differently with each of them, do you maybe have, I guess, like a button you could push to turn that version of Georgia on?
Yeah, for sure. With Zion, it's they're 2 ships passing in the night. Granted, this season completely changed all of that, and it breaks my heart. Like I'm so sad about that.
Yeah,
because there's no coming back from it. We can't come back from that. So season 4 will be very different, but they have so much history. So I've always loved. I just love playing out their history. I love that in the subtext, and then. With Mayor Paul, she that's who Georgia wants to be. Like that's the Georgia that she sees herself as, that she's putting on the show. And then with Joe, I think it's probably her realist self in a way. And I think Joe is maybe who Georgia would be into if Georgia didn't have all this trauma.
Oh, I have so many questions about that. We are going to spoil the entirety of season 3 eventually. Not just yet. I will put up the appropriate warning before we do that. I do have a bunch of questions about finding the character and finding her as she evolves. Going back to the very beginning, someone recently explained it to me this way, and I've kind of gotten obsessed with the thought that, when you start a new show, you're on unstable ground. You don't quite know who you're playing, but then you have that aha moment when you think of something or do a scene and you're like, I have just found who they are. Yeah. Did you have that with Georgia, and if so, when?
I mean, okay, it's a really, really good question. Look, Georgia is written so beautifully. She just jumps off the page. I feel like they even write her cadence. It's all there. I think I'm going to say maybe it's the finale of season 1, Georgia on stage with Paul, not knowing where the kids are, but wanting to win, wanting the attention, wanting her kids to see that, while also telling the PI, we learned that Kenny's ashes are in the fireworks. I feel like that really succinctly explains who Georgia is. Because I remember I was afraid to I remember the note was when Georgia's on stage with Paul to really she comes alive, and we want her smiling, we want her happy. And I remember being kind of afraid to do that because I was worried it would make her so disingenuous, or it would maybe make her evil in some capacity. But that's exactly why it started to click, because some of that is there. It is a little disingenuous, and Georgia did have something up her sleeve, and she is hiding a lot.
Here's a follow-up question to that as it pertains to season 1, because when I first jumped into the show, I was concerned about this because it's a very fine line to walk, the idea of playing a lead character who wins everybody over and inspires us to root for you, but also, I guess, not letting her completely off the hook for the bad things she's done. Yeah. Early on, was there any maybe particular scene or moment in the season where it was toughest to make sure you were towing that line appropriately?
I mean, almost always. Yeah. It's really tricky. I think that's why it's we see Georgia's has a very limited tool belt, and that's where the majority of her downfalls come from. But I think because everything she's doing is for her children, it's understandable. But it is tricky. The pillow in season 2, the pillow with Cynthia's husband. Look, it was really hard for me to wrap my head around that one. We had a lot of talks with our creator and showrunner and me, and sitting down and going through all the beats. But then the way it plays and turns out, I get it.
Is there any part of that discussion where you found peace that was the right story move for her and the show, or did you not even realize that until you watched the finished cut?
It's honestly more watching it. It's hard. You're shooting out of order. I was worried about how that was going to play. Yeah.
I get
for sure.
that.
And knowing that Austin was watching, it just was. So I think for me, when I get worried about those things, all I could do is try to bring as much humanity as possible and just try to make Georgia as real as possible. And that's my only card to play, because it's tough to get behind.
I feel like what you just described there is why it works so well. I can always feel to the necessary varying degrees, I could always feel that. That particular scene might answer this question, but to start to pave the way towards season 3, is there any particular season 2 scene that maybe upended the foundation you built for her most? Something that surprised even you and kind of made you reframe who she was and how she operated?
Yes, probably. But let me think back to season 2.
It was forever ago.
No, but but also story-wise, there's only 2 months passing between season 2 and season 3. I can only think of something from season 3.
I'll take that.
I'm sorry.
No,
okay,
give it to me. Yeah, let's do it.
It's the pregnancy test.
Okay, yeah.
It's the pregnancy test.
Oh my God.
It's excuse me, ma'am? Georgia, what are you doing?
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie.
That was tough.
Quite a few things that made me gasp out loud this season. That was a biggie.
Yeah.
I'll take that as a cue to teeter into season 3 hardcore. I was especially excited to ask you this question because I said it a little bit earlier. there was emotional, heavy material in the previous seasons.
Yeah.
The tone and the vibe of this one feels different. Everything feels more intense and everything feels heavier. Can you tell me something about your approach to playing her that has stayed the same since day one, but then also something about the material in season 3 that has demanded you do something different?
Okay. The Georgia's North Star, where we have to always be consistent, is the stakes are so high for the love of her children. That's the bottom line. That's what everything comes down to. Every decision Georgia makes is because she loves her children more than she loves herself and anything in the whole world. What we had to change, in season 3, Georgia is becoming a little bit more self-aware, and it's the first time, like the scene where we're at the door and Georgia wants Ginny to stop potentially hurting herself because we don't know, or Georgia doesn't know what's happening on the other side of the door. I had to do something different for the first time, was not lose it, because it's the first time Georgia's trying to hold back her emotions for the sake of Ginny. And we had never done that in the show before. It was always Georgia putting her emotions first, or not even realizing she's putting her emotions first, and her emotions taking up all the space in the room, completely bulldozing over Ginny. And this is the first season where it's a little bit different.
Oh, I love that answer so. Feels like there are a number of pretty big firsts for her this season too, where like I'm seeing new layers, or I don't know, just moments of her showing her whole self in a way that I hadn't quite seen before. All right, I'm going to get into specifics now. The first thing I noted down came from season 3, episode 1. It's the conversation at the very end that she has with Ginny, where she basically tells her that Austin saw her kill Tom. And with that particular scene, I wanted to focus on like a particular thing as an actor that I think is a real performance feat. It's being able to like change the vibe of the scene, because the first half of the scene, you're angry, you're super defensive, and then she says that, and the tone, the vibe, everything changes. What is it like, I guess, carving a path from one extreme to another?
So it's a really good question. Okay, when we were auditioning, and at the time I didn't totally get why we were doing this, and now it makes so much sense. we would do the scene and they go, now do it like a multicam. Now do it like it's a horror movie. Now do it like it's just a dark comedy. So it's the same material, but through various different tones, because that's Georgia. Georgia takes all these really hard right turns, and it's halfway through a scene. So tonally, a scene can feel like a multicam. It could feel like a nightmare. It can be a comedy. So that's where the writing also fully comes into play and is so amazing. But yeah, it's hard.
What
and
a smart prompt to give so
Isn't it
early
cool?
on. Yeah. Like literally as you explained that, I feel like I could feel it reverberating throughout this entire series.
So sometimes when I'm looking at scenes, I'm like, oh yeah, this will be like the horror part of the scene. Or I'm like, oh yeah, this is where we get to be silly. Or but that's also in part with working with Tony. Like we have our rhythm with that now. And I don't know if we just got lucky or whatever it may be, but she's a huge part of that too. Like it's very much it's the Ginny and Georgia equation almost.
I'll squeeze in one more question about her. And I know how like wildly talented she is. You've worked with her for 3 seasons now. You know how good she is. But is there anything you saw her do in season 3 that, I don't know, just like took your breath away and made you think to yourself like, my God, I knew you were good, but I never could have imagined you'd be able to do that?
Yeah, because you know what's so cool too about this season is Ginny and Georgia kind of swap roles. So I got to watch Tony be a version of Georgia. I mean, what can't she do? Like this season, Ginny is the force. Ginny is running around town saving her mother's life. And that's the most Georgia thing anyone could do. And like Ginny, asking Simone to be her lawyer and watching her she saves her mom's life. And then also watching her, I mean, this is so dark, but the big twist at the end, that was all Ginny's idea, is so dark and twisted. And she did it so beautifully.
She absolutely crushes all of that.
Yeah.
Kind of leaning into something that you just said. And the answer to this might be no, but like Ginny's running around doing all these like active things that are significantly pushing the plot forward. You are primarily stuck in a select few locations this season. Is there anything new you discovered in her by by like, I guess, making her world smaller.
I mean, Georgia was a caged animal this season. It was tough. It was, but it plays right into all of the subtext of every scene. But Georgia was so stuck. And for such a manic woman who is always, I mean, I think her nervous system is just discombobulated and bopping around all the time. To have her have to live in stillness was very challenging, but I also think pushes her to the extreme to make the call to Dr. Lily that we never thought we would ever see Georgia do.
I feel like I could like feel her vibrating
Literally,
in that small space.
Just stuck. Yeah. And like for someone who likes to be such a control freak, there's not that she couldn't control as much as she wanted to.
I'll give you one more of my dicey questions actually that leans into that a little because it's part of one of the episodes. What are 3 things that you would put in your house arrest basket? Like 3 things you would need.
Okay, 3 things that I would need. Well, she's spot on with the wine. That's what we all
What
need.
What kind of wine? We need specifics here.
A Sancerre. Who doesn't love a nice white, cold,
I'll take that.
Summery Sancerre. What else would I put in there? I mean, my phone? Is that we need our phones?
I mean, you can include that. It makes sense. And then I feel like with everything on your phone, you have all the movies and TV shows at your fingertips.
And maybe, I mean, God, it's a good question. So I'm a real chapstick girl.
Hey.
I can't have dry lips.
Okay.
And some chapstick.
That's fair. That's fair. I feel like the only thing missing from the basket is a snack.
Right? And I love snacks.
I mean, I gotta keep my phone. I'm gonna go for Prosecco. I like the bubbly.
Nice.
And then I was about to be like peanut butter, but I feel like peanut butter and Prosecco just like don't go together. You like chips or something. I don't know.
I feel like that would be on like a good. Did you ever watch Chopped?
Yes.
How they like take all the random ingredients out of the basket. I feel like they would do like a Prosecco and a peanut butter.
If I ever made like the Chopped menu, it'd be everyone's worst nightmare. All right, I'm gonna jump to episode 2 because I love me a private moment for a character, and you get a real good one when Cynthia comes over and basically like rips Georgia to shreds, and then she goes inside and we get that still private moment with you at the door. I guess what was it like figuring out the extent of the emotion and how much what she just said truly rocks her to her core?
You know, that's another good example of a moment where that was a really hard scene to do, but I feel like I learned so much about Georgia. When it comes to that scene with Cynthia, I feel like what I learned about Georgia is like Georgia's a little naive still. Georgia very genuinely, or this is how I was playing it, very genuinely thought she was helping Cynthia. To like 100%, nothing about that to Georgia felt like she was menacing or hurting Cynthia in any capacity. She felt like she was really doing her a solid. So I feel like the private, like when they're talking, Georgia's like, why don't you see that this was a good thing that happened for you? And then in the private moment, it's Georgia realizing that she messed up.
Those
that
are
she
the
made
moments
a mistake.
that always get me the hardest. Yeah. What real living, breathing human being doesn't fear most, like when they have to go home by themselves and like carry all their fears and worries with them.
Absolutely. It's the weight of the world.
It's such a
Especially when you
moment.
thought maybe you were doing something helpful, which is twisted, but
yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Well, most of those things in her case have like a little bit of twistedness to them. Season 3, episode 3. Oh, I love this scene. It's the one between Georgia and Lynette. Just what was it like, I guess, like calibrating the emotion of that with Karen? Because, like, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it does feel like one of the very first times I think I've ever seen Georgia so honest and vulnerable with someone who is, like, not a stranger, but just someone she's less close to than others.
100%. Like, they barely ever even hug. I thought that was one of the most beautiful scenes. It was and I'm trying to remember how that scene started, too. Because at first, too, Georgia's primarily, it comes from a place of jealousy, right? Because Georgia is so jealous of her daughter's relationship with her grandma. And I think at the end of the day, Georgia just needed a mom. And Lynette steps in at the exact moment Georgia needs a hug.
You feel that so much. Yeah. And, like, I feel like I could see that being mirrored with Georgia's relationship with Ginny at certain points where she just needs a hug and like someone like feels comfortable enough to actually admit like I'm really scared.
Yeah. And we've never heard Georgia ever admit that. And Lynette's also showing Georgia how to comfort in a way. And I feel like it opened the door for Georgia to then hopefully in a more healthy way support Ginny.
You also have, I'll emphasize this again, you have such a good ensemble around you.
It's amazing.
Like, your main ensemble is top tier, but there's so many people who come in for a couple of episodes and just make these relationships and also like them as an individual feel so whole with limited screen time.
Completely come to life. And the show, and especially season 3, like we get to go a little bit deeper. I mean, there's so many characters, but like a little bit deeper into everybody and learn a little bit more about them.
You all manage that lengthy ensemble
I don't know
list,
how they do it.
especially. This is why I sit in this seat, and I'm not an actor or a writer. I'm gonna jump to episode 5.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie, this scene was near impossible for me to watch when CPS comes and takes Ginny and Austin. There's other emotional scenes in the show, but does a moment like that demand you prepare in a different way than maybe a more emotional beat that also doesn't demand such intense and specific blocking with it?
Yeah, look, that was so hard. That was one of those scenes where as soon as I read it on the page, there's one every season. And this was the one this season. I had a pit in my stomach until we just finally did it. And I don't know if it was maybe because now I am a mom, but like my emotion for that scene was so on the surface that like it was more trying to be technical so I didn't waste it because I knew what we needed to get camera-wise and to not overdo it in the wrong moment. So by the time we got there, by the time we got to a closer up to make sure that I still had room to go. But yes, it was, and we practiced a lot the physicality with the policemen. Like those were all stunt men because it was so physical. But yeah, like that's what my nightmares are made of. Those are hard scenes. Yeah.
I understand that, like, true, like, I watch a lot of intense stuff. Yeah. That one just shattered my heart into a million pieces. And it's also just, like, it's so beautifully photographed and edited, too. Like, everybody on your team just, like, knew the exact way to bring that scene to screen in the most powerful way possible. I just want to follow up on something else you just said. So that was the scene in season 3 that put a pit in your stomach. Yeah. What about season 1 and 2?
Season 2, it was the car scene where Georgia's like, I'm a monster and I'll swallow this because I did all that for you. And that kept getting rescheduled because of the weather. Like we kept having snow days on every day. It got rescheduled 3 or 4 times where I was like, I can't have this inside of me anymore. Like, but I've got to get this scene out of my body. So when we finally did it, it was very, very cathartic.
Oh, the practical parts of the show.
Yeah, seriously. And then season 1... what was it in season 1? I don't know if I'm remembering now. In season 1, is that when Georgia finds out about the burning? Maybe that's season 2.
I feel like...
Yeah, no, she doesn't know till season 2.
I feel like I should be teed up to answer that question because I binged everything, but it might also make it feel like one big story, and now I can't find the divides.
But also, I think season 1 is our lightest season,
it's true.
As you said. And
it's true.
It's an interesting thing. Like you don't know when you sign on to these shows, how many seasons is it going to get and where is the story going to go? So it surprised me that we keep getting darker, but it's also the only thing that makes sense. All roads have led here. Like, of course.
Oh, I kind of want to follow up on that with another big, like, overarching question. What is the biggest difference between the Georgia you played in your audition and who she's become in season 3?
I mean, it almost feels so different, especially just because season 3, Georgia's so exposed. Georgia's naked season 3. And season 1, she has the audition is just mask, 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 mask. And by the end of season 3, we are fully and we're see-through.
You've got a lot on your shoulders. My God. All right, I'm jumping to episode 7. This is where the pregnancy comes up.
Okay.
This is actually more of a theory question that I had jotted down. It's just something that crossed my mind while I was watching it. How do you think Georgia's reaction to that news might have changed had all of this trial business not been going on?
Oh, it's a really good question. It's a great question because if the trial wasn't happening, Ginny would still be living at home. Georgia wouldn't have been as supportive, I bet. Georgia maybe would have tried to control it. And I love that it's one of the first times we see Georgia give Ginny her agency in choosing what do you want to do here. And it even takes Ginny by surprise, right? She's like, what do you mean? You're always telling me what to do. You're not going to tell me what to do now? Yeah.
I would know.
Yeah.
I would believe that.
I think so.
I think part of me was also just reaching for the answer to be the same.
Yeah.
I just want her to give Ginny what she needs all the time.
And I think Georgia, and it's a punishment for her, but not having the kids at home is Georgia's nightmare. So I think to know that, Georgia, at least knowing she still felt needed by Ginny, gave her the confidence to act like a warm maternal mom in that moment.
You feel that being like her nightmare so much. Like I love the fact that we get time with you at like what we were talking about earlier, that confining time at home where she can't leave, and then you see how much worse it gets without them. I feel like that, at least from the audience perspective, it winds up bolstering the weight and the emotion of something like that tenfold. Oh boy, we're getting near the end.
I know.
So many moments. So this particular question I kind of wanted to tackle from the scene partner perspective. It's the fight she has with Paul in episode 8. And correct me if I'm wrong on this too, but I feel like this might be Scott's most emotional and just bare beat of the entire show. And I was just so impressed. What priorities do you have when you know that someone like him has that much heavy lifting to do, so that you're still delivering your best work, but you could support him the way he needs?
Absolutely. I mean, look, I feel so close with Scott now. He's an amazing scene partner. I've known him forever. I did one episode of Heart of Dixie back in the day. So it was just fun. Then it felt very kismet when all the casting for Ginny and Georgia happened. And Georgia and Paul have been through so much together too. So we're very close at this point. And again, it's like, it's knowing that it's a very, very safe space and looking each other in the eye beforehand and asking, what do you need from me right now? What can I do for you? And likewise. And that's one of my favorite things, I think, is just asking them, what do you need from me on this end? Because also sometimes, it could be distracting if I do, the full Georgia emotion. Could be so everybody needs different things.
Can you give me an example of a time when you had to tell another actor, I need this?
Yeah. I'll tell Tony. I feel the closest with Tony, so I'll tell her. I'll be like, hey, can you do that thing? I need you. Or I'll be like, yeah, I'm very transparent with her. I'll be like, I'm having a hard time getting to this beat. What do I do? Or I'll even just be like, Tony, talk with me about this. And then I'll just start crying, be like, okay, I got it. Thank you very much. See you in the scene.
Yeah. I don't know. I get that. Talking things through like that can make all the difference in the world. Episode 9. This is where she learns what Austin did. What Austin has to do at the trial to get her out of all this. I just want to know about reading that script for the first time. Did you ever in a million years see that coming, or was that a total shock even to you?
1,000% shock. Never crossed my mind. They, in our meeting at the beginning of the season, our creator told me what was going to happen, and I think my jaw was just on the floor. So she told me before I read it, and it's the most perfect ending. It's so sad, but it makes a lot of sense.
Her move with the pregnancy test was it got an oh no out of me, don't do that.
It did.
This was probably one of the loudest gasps I've done in a very long, not in a million years. And also what a cool acting opportunity for a young actor.
He's the best.
Seeing him grow up from season to season and see him have authority in his performance more so than ever in season 3 was a really cool thing to witness.
Him running at the end of season 2 in the finale after the car, I was for real crying in the car, and they were like, Brianne, no, we don't want Georgia crying here. No. And I was bawling. So that was actually where I was like, okay, I need to rein it in. I would be crying in this moment, but Georgia would not. We got to keep it together. And when Georgia learns that that is what Austin has done, it was very weird to play Georgia clueless because I've never done that before. Georgia's not a clueless person. It's the first time Georgia wasn't privy to it, and I kind of felt like I didn't know how to do it.
There's so many firsts. Can you tell us a little about how you tapped into that? Is there any, I don't know, like a thing you research or a technique you used?
Like sometimes, I feel like we just did this in college. It was like thinking slower. Right? Like if I just think really slow, it can play more as confused or clueless. Especially as just Georgia's such a fast character. So it's weird too to slow her down.
Oh, that makes all the sense in the world. All right, we're in episode 10 now. Oh boy. Okay. The Joe stuff.
Yes.
I got some big questions.
Okay.
She does kind of explain this, but I'm curious to hear if there's like even more subtext to it. I'm gonna split this up into 2 questions.
Okay.
First part would be at that point when she basically like commits to pursuing things with Joe, what do you think is the number one thing she wants out of a romantic relationship, and how does that compare to what she wanted out of it previously?
I think with Joe, I don't even know if it's a relationship or like she wants the distraction in the moment. But because she still isn't, I don't know that she's, I don't know what Georgia wants. Yeah, it's tricky. It's really tricky because.
That's why I had such a hard time wording that question. I never know.
Like I admired when Georgia, when she was running away and was like, Joe, it's now or never, babe. Like, this is the time. So, and that's what it is. Like, in Georgia's mind, she's going to run away again, right? Like, she's leaving the kids, which also was very hard to get behind. That was another scene that made me question, who is Georgia? What are we doing? How do I play this? But I think Georgia's so beaten down by the end of the season, she genuinely believes her kids are better off without her. So that's her still doing what she thinks is the right thing for them because she's realizing they are actually happy and healthy and okay without her. So I think in that moment with Joe when she's running away, she basically realizes that there is something there that she's always been denying and that if they were going to have a shot, it's in this one moment right now. And I don't think she thinks she's seeing him ever again. Otherwise, I don't think she would have done that.
And so like when we get to the very end of the season and she's talking about wanting safety, like does she find peace with that? Like she is going to, does she have confidence that he's going to be able to give her the safety that nobody else has?
I don't know. Because also when he comes to visit her, she's telling him like, forget about me. It's time, you need to let this go. I know. I want them all to get what they need, but if they do, I wouldn't have a TV show.
But
look, like I think we're going to see, because this is Georgia Miller's breakdown season, basically, she's an entirely new person at the end of it.
I got questions about that. There could be hope.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
For a real relationship. Yeah.
Okay. Here, actually, I still want to ask the back half of that question that I had thought of. At the end of season 3, what do you think would be her top priority to give to a romantic partner? Like, she wants a lot of things out of a relationship, but what is important to her to give to the person she's with?
It's a very good question because Georgia takes a lot, right? Like, she's a real taker. I wonder if Georgia can give honesty. Because everything is like every secret she's ever had has been exposed. Georgia, for the first time in her life, has no more secrets. No more secrets. And I think she might try to live in that space and offer that because she's never offered that. I mean, that was obviously the issue with Paul is it was lie on top of lie on top of lie on top of lie.
It's not what Joe. Well, I mean, it could be. We get the milk at the end.
We get the milk at the end.
So I'm assuming that's teeing up a certain something.
It absolutely is.
Here's a 2-part question about that. Let's say she has another child.
Right.
What do you think is the biggest difference between what she thought it meant to be a good mother at the beginning of this show and what she thinks it means to be a good mother going into season 4?
I think Georgia has learned that that people need space from her at times. I think that's not something she ever was able to wrap her head around before. And that she can be that she doesn't have to control her children. She can't control them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good thing to learn. I just like keep thinking about poor Austin and like the internal struggle he's going through.
Like what is he going to have to deal with after this?
Like control is not good, but like at this point I somewhat trust Ginny to like be okay and hold her own. I'm nervous for him.
Yeah.
Very nervous
So am
for
I.
him. Here's one more episode 10 question before we start to teeter into like a couple of tease questions.
Okay.
So at the end, we get the tease that more of Georgia's past could come back to haunt her with that phone call.
With the phone call.
We've seen that happen a lot in this show, and every time her past comes back to haunt her, like ultimately there's something she needs to learn or gain from that experience.
Right.
Can you tease maybe something new she still stands to gain from how the past might come back to get her in this respect?
So, yes, without giving away too much, Georgia has a narrative about her life that was given to her that is incorrect. But Georgia, who Georgia thinks is, Georgia's been told a narrative. So look, Georgia's been told a narrative about who the bad guy is in her life. And we learn a little bit more about that bad guy, and some layers get pulled back. And they're maybe not what we thought they were.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Here's another, I didn't have this on my list, but it's just coming to mind. What would you say is the benefit in terms of like the quality of your show when it comes to getting a double season renewal, when you're able to basically think 2 seasons ahead instead of season to season?
I mean, it's such a privilege, and it's not a situation I've ever been in before, and it was so thrilling. You can almost relax a little bit in knowing we have more story to tell. It doesn't have to be you get to trust the process a little bit more because you know what certain payoffs are going to be.
I'm so happy for you. It's so nice as a viewer too, knowing something's coming to an end and like you're guaranteed to get more. Do you have a go time for that?
It'll be later this year.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like the sound. I like the sound of that. I'm happy to hear that. To I guess tease what could come. I don't know how much you actually know about what season 4 is going to hold.
It's true. And some things change. Like some stuff they told me that was going to happen for 3 changed in the writer's room. It didn't happen exactly the way.
Can you give me an example
that they
of
said
that?
It was going to be.
I love hearing how stories can evolve and often evolve for the better because of that.
Okay, one thing. Look, Georgia was always going to commit a crime in season 2, which was the pillow with Tom. But it wasn't always going to be Tom. But they wanted the trial to happen in Wellsbury, so the crime had to happen in Wellsbury. But there was a different crime that was going to happen outside of Wellsbury.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. A crime to someone we know?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. Yeah.
Can you tell me who it is?
No.
Okay. I'll respect that. I had to ask. I got too curious.
Not well, but yeah, it was going to go a little bit of a different way. And then they pivoted because they realized they wanted to bring it all. Everything needed to happen in Wellsbury legally for it to make sense for the trial. Yeah.
Figuring those things out along the way is of the utmost importance. Yeah. Here's an ending question that could tease how Georgia's going to be different going forward. Okay. So it's brought up a lot this season where people are constantly asking like, do you know who I am? Or I know who you are. At this point in the show, who do you think Georgia thinks she is? What do you think she maybe thinks her greatest strength and greatest weakness is at the end of season 3?
Oh, at the end of it? I mean, look, I think Georgia always thinks she's the the slickest one in the room, right? Georgia's a few steps ahead of everyone. I think Georgia's very confident in her street smarts. I think she's very insecure maybe about her book smarts, but I think she feels very confident in being a con woman. But I think she would say her own strength, okay, it changes. I think at the beginning of season 3, Georgia would say her strength is that she's the best mother in the world. And probably by the end of season 3, Georgia's very aware of how her actions have affected her family. Yeah.
Well, how do you think her dynamic with Ginny is going to evolve, given Ginny's essentially usurped her in terms of how she's controlling the situation.
Control and power. It's scary. I know. I don't know. And it will also be very interesting to see how much it changes Ginny's relationship with Austin.
Yeah.
Because you can feel Austin's resentment building a little bit about look what you made me do.
There's so much to mine there.
Yeah.
Like I can't get
There's
over
a lot.
how many creative possibilities could be, because it could go in so many different directions.
Yeah.
Like even
Yeah.
just with your relationship, I keep thinking like she could find comfort in knowing that Ginny is smart enough to get them out of that kind of situation, but also like the heartbreaker of having turned her into that person, and also the fear of what she could do and not know.
Exactly.
So many layers.
It's horrifying. Yeah.
2 more questions before I let you go. Here's another one that kind of compares how she operates at the beginning to how she's going to operate going forward. What do you think is the biggest difference between Georgia's approach to getting what she wants at the beginning of this show and how she's going to approach getting what she wants after everything she experienced in season 3?
It's tricky because Georgia didn't manipulate this situation. Someone else did. But at the same time, I think Georgia will still revert to her old ways a little bit because at the end of the day, she got off.
It's so true.
You know?
It's
like
so true.
I think Georgia is also kind of like, okay, fresh start. We got off the hook. We're still in Wellsbury. Wellsbury's not mad at me anymore. It's a fresh start.
It's like that 1 step forward, 2 steps back
A
mentality.
little bit, yes. Yeah.
All right. Last question of Ladies' Night. We end every single episode with this particular question. Film and television, we give each other awards. That's super cool. I think we should keep doing that. Nobody in this business tells themselves good job as much as they should. I want to know something you accomplished making season 3 of Ginny and Georgia that you'll always be able to look back on and say, you know what? Really proud of what I did there.
Oh my gosh, that's very thoughtful. I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm proud of the whole season. That was a really hard season. I was so, it was my first time back at work since having my daughter, and the days are very long. I was away from her a lot, and I'm proud at the way my family and I navigated that.
Oh, that's a beautiful answer. I appreciate you sharing that. And I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you being here today and like sitting through my roadmap with all my little nitpicky questions.
You have amazing questions. Thank you so much.
You made a show that gives me like so much to think about. I can't even. I'm going to say congrats on everything you accomplished on season 3 of Ginny and Georgia and everything coming your way in the future.
Thank you
Hurry
so
up
much.
and come back to Ladies' Night soon.
Thank you. I've had the best time. Thank you for having me.